Alban Eilir is upon us. We're here at our second spring festival, the Spring Equinox festival. We saw the first budding of spring at Imbolc, and now we are here at the rebirth of the light, the return of spring. This holiday never really meant anything to me until recently. I've mentioned before on the podcast how I've been reading Ross Nichols' Book of Druidry, and I saw one magical word. It's just a word that he included on the list of holidays where it said Alban Eilir Angus. And my eyes opened up and I suddenly understood what this holiday is for and what this holiday is about. Let's talk about that today as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid.
Today, we are talking about and beginning our celebration of Alban Eilir. And I have to start off right from the beginning here, just to remind everybody, neither Brian nor I speak Welsh, and a lot of Druidic terms are in Welsh. And while we do our best is often insufficient to wrap our mouths around Welsh words. So my apologies to anyone who speaks Welsh if we are completely butchering that. I am sorry. We try ever so hard.
In that spirit, happy Spring Equinox.
Happy Spring Equinox. I just feel like we need to clear the air about that before we really get into it, because I feel like this one more than any of the others, I feel like I mispronounce every time I say it. So
I guess I should say, on advice from my counsel, the Dagda, I should just say Spring Equinox. Please do not say the Welsh words. Okay.
So before we get into this holiday too much, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever app you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, and we have a lot of really interesting stuff coming up, and you don't want to miss a thing. All right, let's just get into it. This has been kind of a strange holiday for me, and I've had a hard time connecting to the solar holidays. I am moon powered. I've talked about this before on the podcast. I have a very strong connection to the moon and to the lunar cycles, and that is easy for me. The sun and I aren't friends. That we really aren't. Like, I am a night owl. I like to be up at later. I don't function well in the sunlight. I don't function well in the day. I don't like the heat. I'm not a solar person.
My biggest struggle was more out of I didn't get it. Like, growing up, I was told that this was spring, right? Everyone always pitched it as, this is spring to me. Or with any of them, like, they would pitch, this is summer, this is spring, this is fall. And I kept going, but spring started a while back. Like, how is this the start of spring? It always confused me until finally Charlie explained to me, no, this would be the middle of spring. And I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. These are the middle of the various seasons. And it's like, I started to get it a little bit better that way, at least. Yeah, and have a little more connection to it.
The secular calendar really does see this as the beginning of spring, but for us, we saw the beginning of spring back in February when the daffodils and the snowdrops and those first shoots, those first green shoots are just starting to peek their heads out. Life is just starting to come back. Songbirds are just starting to return. And here we are in mid-spring, which also I feel is much more apropos for an equinox, because we're talking about an equal amount of day and night, of light and darkness, that it really does feel much more appropriate for that to occur in the middle rather than at the end or beginning.
Because my brain I'm very pragmatic. I tend to take things very literally sometimes, or often. And so the beginning of spring means the beginning of the prep. It's all the prep work for the planting, right? So if I waited till now to start prepping for planting, I wouldn't have the planting actually started until beginning of what we actually would call the beginning of summer, basically summertime, which means that the plants would not even grow and harvest until late fall, winter. This is how I have pepper plants that are finally almost big enough. They're starting to produce peppers now because they took all winter to grow. Whereas this year, I started my planning and prepping back at the actual beginning of spring.
That really does tie in really well with two of the things that is recommended by OBOD for something to do this time of year, and that's plant seeds and commit yourself to caring for the plants. That is a good way to celebrate this time of year. But the one thing where I connected to this was when I saw the word Angus. This is the time of the songbirds. This is the time of love. We're getting ready for Beltane, and Beltane is in many ways one of the most erotic of the festivals of the year. It is the time of love, of passion, of being together. And the more biblical sense, it is that time of the passion. This is the time of courting as we're getting ready to enter that season when we're starting summer. And when I thought about this, it really reminded me like this is the time that the songbirds are coming back. This is the time that the birds are singing. And Angus, one of the things that he is famous for is for the 4 birds that accompany him, that whoever hears their singing will instantly fall in love. This is what makes him very different from like a Roman Cupid, who is very militaristic and very aggressive and shooting arrows at people, or any of the other deities that are associated with love. One, as we've already talked about in our Druidcraft 101 series, his story about his love for care is a story of lovesickness. Like he dreams of her and becomes so sick he can barely move, to the point where his father, the dog, literally wages war trying to find this woman that he's dreaming about. And there's all of this self-care that comes in where they have to give him his strength back and help him build himself up. And the sheer transformation where he finally sees her and he runs towards her. And as he reaches his arms out for her, he transforms into a swan and she transforms into a swan and they fly off together. The story of just transformation and change and just pure lovesickness really does fill his legend. And so I love the idea that the way he spreads love is through the sound of the songbird. The other day, we were talking about Angus with some friends of ours online, and the songbirds came up to our front step. The door was open. It was a nice day out, and they were all so loud. And one of our friends was like, "Man, those songbirds are really loud." And I said, "Oh, that's just Angus trying to get my attention, but I don't work well with him like this." And I just looked over at the door and I said, "Angus, you need to go talk to your sister or your wife, because I work better with them and they can give me the message that you're trying to send me better." And the 4 songbirds got quiet, looked at each other and flew off like instantly. Like the people we were talking to were just like, "Oh, that just happened." And I'm like, "Yeah, that did just happen." And it really confirmed in me this belief of we're hearing this song of Angus all around us right now, with all of the songbirds singing and this renewal of life that's coming out there. And it's this time to fall in love again, whether it's with our partner that we've decided to live our life with, falling in love with life again, falling in love with our work again. And I don't mean the job that you go to, your 9 to 5 necessarily. I mean our work. What is it that is the work of your heart? What is the calling that you have on you that you just can't help but do? And that this is that time to reconnect and to fall in love again. And that's really what this time of Alban Eilir is about, is learning and reminding ourselves to just love one another and to love life again. And suddenly this festival had meaning for me.
Yeah, it did. I love that you shared that story. I have a follow-up question that I forgot to ask the next day. So did you have strange dream the night after?
Oh, so you're going to come for me now.
I'm going to come for you. I teach Charlie a lot about like, oh, the go smooth move. Now you're going to have some wacky dreams tonight.
Yes, I did. I do not feel like the dreams that I had are appropriate for sharing on
Oh,
a
understood.
platform like this. They were very much about, what I will say is I'm working on some projects right now to try to reconnect with my art and with my work, my heart work. And the dreams that I had were very much in the world that I am building. They were very strongly in this place. There were songbirds in the trees. There were swans on the river that really reminded me of, oh, this is Care and Angus trying to talk to me. And I had some conversations with some of the characters that are going to be showing up in the story. And it's just so ultra vivid that it actually changed the world that I'm working on. I got up the next day and started rewriting my world building materials to reflect the changes that I saw in the dream.
Nice.
It really did reconnect me in and really made me fall in love even more with this, because it's going to be a silly story. It's going to be silly worlds. I'm a very serious person. If you can't tell from the podcast, I really am an overly serious person. It's one of my worst character flaws that I don't often have to be reminded to stop and smell the roses. I get very focused and task oriented. The whole point of the story that I'm working on right now is it's the world, and the way I'm working on it is designed to be anything but that. I did. Yeah. You
Yeah.
actually saw one of the first bits that came out of that the other day.
The graphic for that was amazing and entertaining, and I giggle every time I see it. Yeah, I figured the message itself was, the dark message was personal and meant for you. I just was more caught up in the drama of the moment, because right after Charlie said that, I was just imagining he was going to talk to his sister, and his sister just going, I don't know. And him going home and then complaining to the wife, and the wife going, whatever, I'll just take care of it. And then getting a very vivid dream that night, because she was tired of hearing him complain about it. But just imagining in my own mind this family drama going on because of your comment. And then I had teased Charlie quite a bit that evening about the dreams. And then I got distracted the next morning when I got up. I forgot to ask. That's great.
Angus and Care are inseparable to me. And so, when you talk about Angus, you have to talk about Care Embereth. You have to talk about her. She is there's no way to tell Angus's story really without her, unless you get into some of the weird, I don't want to use the I word, but brother sister activities that happen in the Scottish folklore, which I reject entirely. In Scottish folklore, Angus is married to Bridget, and I can't even with that. I can't even.
I just assume they got it wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got it wrong.
Or it's one of the other Bridgets. There's always this idea that there were more than one Bridget, that Bridget may have been a title rather than a name. And the Scottish folklore, like I could see calling Care a Bridget, a bright and shining one, which is what that word means, a bright and shining, splendor one. I could see calling Care that. And so in my mind, when I read any of the Scottish folklore, they're just calling Care a Bridget. They're giving it to her as a title, and it's still a story about Care to me. Because
because I just go, oh, that's Bridget M, who lived over at the other lock over there. The Bridget. Okay, so that's how you got it wrong. I understand. Yeah,
he did not marry his sister. I can't with that.
No,
I just can't with that. But I think that also brings up the other side of this, is where Angus's side of this festival is really about that learning to love again. I think Care reminds us of the power of transformation and dream, and how we should be embracing our dreams, embracing the change that they inspire in us. And I'm not just talking about the dreams we have every night, though I do believe that we communicate to ourselves, our deepest selves communicate to us through our dream. And I believe that the universe can communicate to us through our dreams. But also those things that we call dreams, those hopes and ambitions that we would literally move mountains to achieve and accomplish. That's to me one of the main domains of Care. And to see all of that embodied in this equinox, because it's equal parts day and night, which is a beautiful way of thinking of the marriage of Angus and Care, right? Because she's this goddess of dreams and Angus is this god of love. He's always described as a bright appearance, generally like his sister Bridget with blonde hair. And we have Care, who is the goddess of dreams. So this equal part day and night, this balance between Angus and Care, seeing all of that kind of brought together in the symbolism of this day gives this day so much more meaning for me that I have not had before. And one that I've not really seen elsewhere. If any of you have seen other people talk about this, please tell me in the comments, because I would love to dig into this more, because it wasn't till last year I got a copy of the Book of Druidry by Ross Nichols and started just digging into it and really exploring all of the ideas in there. And like I said, he doesn't even dig into it in that book. he has a list of the 8 Festa, and next to Alban Eilir, there's just dash Angus. That's it. And all of these thoughts that I'm sharing with you were born out of that just dash Angus, that this is Angus's festival. And like I said, the more I think about it, the more that makes sense. But I would say it's Angus and Cares. I think we need
Yes.
to stop forgetting the goddesses. I think we need to stop leaving them out.
Yes. Especially when with both of them together, what the spring equinox is about is, and even when you dive into the fact that this is a liminal space, this holiday is a liminal space. It is a transition. It's a liminal space of balance where it's balanced going from night transitioning into day, and it's that liminal space balance between the two that is that realm of imagination, of dreams. That is where it is at its most potent. We around the house used to joke all, or we joke all, we didn't used to. We around the house joke all the time about drinking of the hypnagogic wine, that space where you're just waking up from deep sleep and you're still in that dream foggy realm of imagination, where you have one foot there in that sleepy, dreamy realm and one foot in the wakeful state, and haven't quite fully woken up, and you haven't quite fully just said, I'm going back to bed for a while, and made that decision to just go back into dream realm. And it's such a fascinating, wonderful, fun liminal space.
The more I've been talking with my guides and guardians about the events leading up to this particular Alban Eilir, the more I feel like there's going to be a superpower charge hitting the world in this time. I was really troubled that we had this big solar eclipse, like this big blood moon right next to Alban Eilir, to the spring equinox. And what did that mean? And how does this actually affect things? What is this? Is there a lesson we're supposed to learn in this? Is this about the energies? Is it just coincidence? Because it's very important when you're doing these kind of speculations to always leave yourself open to, this is just coincidence, because
Yep.
coincidence happens a lot. But one of the things that one of my guides led me to is this idea of, this was the precursor event, that this Alban Eilir is going to really bring in a true spirit of rebirth into the world that is going to be almost dangerous, because it's going to be like a phoenix, this kind of rebirth in fire. And that what we saw at the total eclipse mirrors this part day, part night equality, in that we had the light of the moon being shadowed by the light of the earth. We had Care and Angus represented in the sky.
One of the other things I thought was really fascinating, this spring equinox is right in between this lunar eclipse, and then we actually have a partial solar eclipse in
Yeah.
April. It's really fascinating when you look at it in the sense of this balance between day and night, and then you have an eclipse at night and an eclipse at day.
And a partial
In
solar
the day
eclipse,
when
meaning that the light is going to be stronger than the darkness.
the light is stronger than the darkness, where the attempt to eclipse the sun is missed. It misses its mark by just a bit, which is really fascinating. Plus, both of those eclipses are also fascinating in the sense that you have that weird hybrid day-night thing going on, where, like, last year when we experienced the full solar eclipse, it was just a really powerful thing.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
Oh, that was in 2023? I don't know. Time is a persistent illusion.
Yeah, I think that was just last year.
Alexa, when
I
was
think
the
it was
last full solar eclipse?
The last total solar eclipse was on Monday, April 8th, 2024. It was totally viewable from Canada.
It was last year, last
It was.
April.
It was
Wow.
that magical moment where you're sitting there in midday and experiencing night at the same time as day. I love liminal spaces. Just a little side note. I know you all have heard it many times, but they're favorite playgrounds for me.
I see where my mind's blown on this is, I was thinking we were coming to the 2-year anniversary of me taking my priesthood vows, and that means we're coming up on the 1 year
The 1 year.
anniversary. It feels like so many years have passed since then. Like, we've done so much.
What a crazy year.
Wow.
And to think that we're literally, like, this equinox is actually happening almost a year and a day. Yay, we finished that quest early.
Yeah, that's not the thing I thought was going to blow my mind today. That
Yeah.
done something to me on the inside. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about interesting correlative
Uh-huh.
events and stuff. And this is some of the fascinating, interesting correlative events.
But
Yeah.
I really do feel that energy, though, that my guides were talking about, that there is going to be this kind of phoenix like rebirth, and that scares me in some ways, because a phoenix has to burn to ashes before it comes back to life. That kind of builds on the guidance that I got back at Samhain,
Yeah.
when my guides were very clear. My great grandfather actually came back at Samhain and was very clear that, I hope you're ready for a fight. There's a war coming.
Yeah, because I think some of the interpretation of the doomerism may not have been necessarily as accurate, because it's a moment of transition, high potential opportunity for change. Question to be seen is, like with transitioning any liminal space, how are we collectively going to come out the other side?
Yeah.
Who's
I mean,
going to put in the effort? As the phrase goes, are we going to wake up on the right side of the bed, or are we going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning?
my problem with doomerism is that it feels a finality. I don't think that anything is ever final. You have to remember, plants created the worst mass die-off that we've ever had on this planet. They put so much oxygen in the air, and they took so much carbon out of the air, that the earth almost froze solid, and may have actually frozen solid. There's evidence that that there was ice on the ocean down to the equator, and life found a way to survive all that. We survived the meteorite strike and the KPG. Life survived the Great Dying, and we've been through quite a few devastating dooms. I don't know what else you call them, but dooms. And I think it's a very narcissistic way of viewing things, to think that if our species succumbs or something like that, that's the end. Life will find a way. The cephalopods will take over or something. I don't know. It'll be the time of the marsupials again. I don't know. Something will happen.
Earth will be ready to birth forth new plastic creatures.
Yeah. Okay.
Plastic era.
Just as you said that, I think like hope is one of the things that we're going for. There are actually signs that there are certain kinds of birds that are actively seeking out plastic to build their nests, so that they can actually save time and lay more eggs, because they can return to that nest every year, because the plastic hasn't gone away, and that it's actually helping some endangered birds to survive, because they don't have to take the time to build a new nest. They can return to their old nest. There was one of these, when I was watching the thing about it, one of these nests, when they were looking at it, had obvious signs of use for 3 generations. This is a species that would normally build a new nest every year. That is amazing. I'm not saying that plastic waste is a good thing. I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm just saying, in line with what we're talking about, life finds a way. If I can quote Jurassic Park, right? Life finds a way, nature finds a way, and moves forward. I think that's where we are right now. Just a couple other recommendations that we have for things to do this holiday season. I love these. These are from the Obad recommendations, that you should go to a library or a bookshop. I find something totally new to get into, to get obsessed with. I love the idea of that. And that this is a time for body prayer. This is a time for dance, for movement meditation. And as a practitioner of creation spirituality, I really believe in embodied prayer and embodied meditation as much as we can. So I highly recommend both of those activities. But I hope that this has helped you connect more to this season and to this change. For our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going into the fall equinox. I hope that this episode has helped you out, helped you to get into the spring season that we are getting into. If you have any questions or comments, how are you celebrating the equinox? Are you celebrating the equinox? Let us know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there. Anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they do not notify us. We will not know. So you can leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to creationspast.com, click on chat, or click on the actual episode over there, whichever you feel like doing. And you can leave a comment right there, and we will be able to see it and get back in touch with you about it. But yeah, I'd really like to know what you're doing this season. While you're over on Creations Pass, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer both monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us on Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both, or you can support us through the Cash App #Creations Pass. Thank you to everybody who does that. You really do help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head, and food on our table. If you don't have any money to give right now, or you're not sure that we're the kind of people that you want to give your hard-earned money to, that is perfectly understandable and all right. But if we've done anything that's helped you out or you think would help others, please share that with them. That helps out more than you could possibly know. All right, as we are heading out, oh, Angus and Care, brilliant guides into love and dream and imagination. Help us as we enter the spring season to fly on the wings of the swan and to hear the song of love in the work and all the voices of the birds around us. Help us to embrace the newness of life and all of the challenges that are to come. Amen.
Amen.